Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to see you today. How was your first week of 2017? Good, great. um, we had an interesting week. uh, actually, this week we had I'm just put this up first. Oh, yeah. So our topic today is we talking about minding our minds. And this week we had kind of a breakdown of harmony in our home. Surprise! No, I think it was really just kind of the culmination of a few weeks or months of a buildup of miscommunication and frustration, or those kind of things. So, this week it was just very in our face. The kids were arguing so much with each other and not listening when we asked them to do the simplest things. And then Mike and I were getting frustrated and responding in not the most, productive, effective ways either. So it really felt so awful. It was totally out of sync with my New Year's goals. We just sat down and determined, reflected on the past year and set out what we wanted to do this year. And I wanted to have, a more loving family and better communication. And nope. So and at one point, the kids were all pointing fingers at each other. We would say something like, Aiden, why did you, make that mess? Mia was the one throwing the things around. She told me to do it. And then Mia says, no, Nathan said this, and so I had to throw this at him. It was just like a circle of blame. And so we sat down and we talked about it at dinner time, and we talked about how blame doesn't solve anything, and that only you can be responsible for your experience. Only you can be responsible for the things that you say and the things that you do. You can't blame it on somebody else. And ultimately, that means that you are responsible for your happiness too. You can't blame your unhappiness on other people. We take responsibility for our own lives, take responsibility for our own happiness. And that actually, when we do that, we will inspire others. I said, Nathan, even if some other kid at school were telling you to say mean things, but then you didn't and you said nice things, I bet other kids would notice. I bet they would be surprised because maybe they were going to say something mean, but because you said something nice, and they stopped, and maybe they would say something nice. We had that kind of a conversation. It really got me thinking about the power of our words and the power of our mind. Anyway, that was one conversation we had. We still had to have another sit-down family meeting a little later on in the week and really just kind of lay it all out. This is what's happening in our home. This is what we love about you guys. And these are some of the things that are frustrating us about you guys. And we also gave the kids a chance, to say what they love about mommy and daddy, but also what are they frustrated or what are they not happy about with mommy and daddy. And so we re-outlined our family goals and our expectations. We made job charts for the kids, and they're so excited about it. I knew they would be because they like those kind of things. And I had actually thought of this months ago. I had bought these job charts at the dollar store and put them up on the refrigerator, and we just hadn't done anything with them for about 3 or 4 months. But I realized it really just took me talking with Mike and saying, okay, we need to sit down and we need to do this. And then actually sitting down and talking about it with our whole family and doing it, and expressing it all, letting it all out, and reorganizing ourselves. And actually the last 2 days have been so much nicer. So so that also just reminded me the power of our thoughts, what we're thinking about, and then also the words that we take propel us into action. So So that was my experience with my goals in the first week of the year. So, what goals do you have for your year? What has your experience been this first week of the year? A year can be a long time. So, maybe you are charging forward with the goals that you have. Some people want to exercise every day. Some people want to eat healthy. Some people want to reconnect to their spouse or to their parents. And maybe some of you have already taken huge steps in that direction. Or maybe some of you, like myself, felt that we had a few stumbling blocks already along the way. So how do we stick to our goals for the course of a whole year? It can be a long time. I have a saying. You've probably heard this before. I think it's pretty common. Watch your thoughts. They become words. Watch your words. They become actions. Watch your actions. They become habit. Watch your habits. They become character. And watch your character, where it becomes your destiny. So what we are thinking about and what we are talking about will determine the course of the coming year. So much begins with our words. With the words that we speak, we can build or we can destroy. It makes me think about in the creation of the universe. In John 1:1, it said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." And in Genesis, talking about the creation of the universe, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God said, "Let's, separate the firmament from the waters," and it was separated. Of course, I think there's more to it than that, but the point of it is that there was an intention, and there was words that created action and created a result. It's the power of our words. They have power to create. Sometimes I think we just say things because we feel something or we think something, but we don't always do it with intention. My mentor in Arbonne, in my home business, is always telling me, speak life into your business. Speak life over your business, because that will create your business. So with the thoughts and the words that we say to others, and actually, I think beginning with the thoughts and words that we say to ourselves, we create our life. And with these words and thoughts, we will determine the course of our year. So I think we can recognize the value of the words and the thoughts that we have. But you may also recognize that sometimes the words and the things that we're saying are not so helpful. We can outline great goals for the year. I think many of us have. And I will say, no matter what they are, I believe they are totally attainable. But sometimes we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot. Sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot with the words that we say after we make them. I know sometimes, for myself, I get really inspired about something, and I say, okay, I want to do this. But then in the next moment, the fear begins to creep in, or the doubt begins to creep in, or I begin to remember that goal that I made last year and that I didn't accomplish. And I start to say things, maybe not out loud with my actual words, but in my mind, my thoughts, my inner words, I start saying things to myself like, well, how did that last condition go for you? What kind of results did you get from that? Or you only did that last thing halfway, so maybe you'll achieve half of your goal this year. Who am I kidding? I don't actually really have what it takes. So quickly, these kind of things can creep back in and kind of obscure our goals and then create this kind of a fog that we're living in. Perhaps your past experiences can tell you that, life is hard. We're not good enough. Things never really work out the way I want them to anyway. And sometimes this narrative can kind of dictate not only our experience of our past life, but it can dictate the direction that our life goes in. So we don't want to have those kind of thoughts coming in. But you may have also noticed that it's not always easy to manage those thoughts. It's not always easy to have the good kind of thoughts that feed our spirit and that feed our soul and that feed our vision and feed our life. Sometimes we're not even aware of what we're thinking. I've become only recently more aware of how I start my days. Particularly this morning, since I knew I was going to be talking about it. And this is how my morning goes when I first become conscious in the morning. No. It's not morning yet. No. I don't want to get up. Oh man, I didn't sleep well last night. Oh, and I've got all these things to do today. I just want to go back to sleep. No. All these negatives, like from before I even open my eyes, as soon as I become conscious, I'm like, oh no, don't wake up. So, oh gosh. And honestly, this is usually where my head is in the first thing in the morning. And needless to say, it takes me a while to get out of bed. It takes me a while to get going in the mornings. It's not easy to change our thoughts and to change our thought patterns. Sometimes I'm like, think happy thoughts, like Peter Pan. Think happy thoughts, think happy thoughts. Puppies, rainbows, smiling children. And I think there is a certain value to just, making yourself think about those things. But as soon as your focus leaves, then what comes back in? It's our habits, our unconscious thought patterns just come back to us. So I have another quote from the Bible. This is from Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So our goal is to renew our mind. I think that in order to do that, we need to do more than just tell ourselves to think happy thoughts and to think the right things. We actually need to flood our mind with good thoughts. We need to flood our mind with a good environment. How do we renew our mind? How do we make a fertile soil of our mind where our thoughts, our words, and actions flourish into good deeds? Perhaps you've heard the saying, you've probably heard this before, that you are the mean, like the average, of your 5 closest friends. Have you heard that before? Okay, I've heard that a few times. And I think that what it's saying is that who you surround yourself with, the kind of people that you spend the most time with, is the kind of person that you become. And it's our environment that we're putting ourselves in. The mean of who you are is the result of the 5 closest friends that you spend your time with. And so I think that this can also go for our mind and our thoughts. What are we exposing ourselves to? What are we allowing ourselves to think about throughout the day? I found it so interesting. You may have noticed last Sunday that Mike has new glasses. These are colorblind glasses. So Mike can see most colors, but the reds and the greens are not clear for him. So we were really excited to finally get him these glasses where he can begin to see colors that he's never seen before. And when we went to the glasses shop and he first got to try them on, the lady there said, now you may not see a difference right away because it takes time for your brain to create the new pathways to allow you to see these colors. So even though you put them on and technically he's seeing it, but he's not actually seeing it in his mind because it takes time to create the new pathways. So I think it's the same thing for when we create a environment in our mind and for our thoughts, that it takes time to create new pathways for a new way of thinking. And what we need is exposure. So Mike won't see red and green if he doesn't wear his glasses and expose himself to that picture in front of him for a long period of time. In the same way, we won't be thinking the kind of thoughts that feed our soul and feed our vision and feed our goals without surrounding ourselves with the environment that's conducive to that. So I've found that when I spend a lot of time, scrolling through Facebook in my spare time, or going to Google News and reading all the articles of the things that are happening. They don't put inspiring things on Google News, just so you know. Then that's what I spend the rest of my day thinking about. Honestly, a lot of my time is spent thinking about the things that I spend my time looking at. So Mike and I deleted our Facebook app this week. That's part of our New Year's jump. So what if we replaced our Facebook app with a Father's Quotes app? There's a really good one out there. Is that what it's called, Mike? Okay, Sun Myung Moon Quotes. You can look that one up. It's really great. Instead of spending our time reading the news, what if we kept a divine principle at our bedside table, or a father's autobiography on our coffee table? And instead of reaching for a phone to scroll the news, that we instead picked up and read a chapter of the divine principle or father's autobiography. Mike and I used to listen to the comedy station quite a bit on the radio when we were driving around, but we replaced that with a Christian music station because it feeds our attitude and it feeds our soul in a much more healthy and better way. So what if instead of watching, some show on TV for 30 minutes, we took 30 minutes just to reflect or to pray or to meditate? How much time do we spend every day looking at Facebook and watching TV and listening to the radio? I think it varies for everybody, but just picture for yourself what kind of a switch it would make if we replaced these, not always negative things, but what if we replaced these things that are not always so helpful for us with something that would directly contribute to the well-being of our mind and our soul and our lives? I think that before long, our brain would start rewiring to align ourselves with who we really, really want to be, our truest self, and would start to align ourselves also to start seeing from God's viewpoint. Just like we were talking about blame and how blame is really a fallen nature. It comes, but it starts, of course, it manifests in multiplying, negativity and leaving your position and reversing dominion. But it all starts with not being able to see and love from God's viewpoint. All of the problems start from there. That we fail to see others and ourselves from God's viewpoint, and we fail to love others and love ourselves in the way that God loves us. So I think that if we were to spend 30 minutes more a day immersing ourselves in God's word, or immersing ourselves in prayer, or immersing ourselves in positive things, that will begin to switch the pathways in our brain. And instead of turning them in towards ourselves and what we're thinking about ourselves and what I'm feeling about myself, it would begin to turn them to God. We can align ourselves with God's love. We can align ourselves with God's vision. And then I think our goals and dreams that sometimes seem really far away when we're focused on ourselves will actually seem like the natural next step. So those are the things I've just been thinking about a lot this week. I feel like I've really been in the thick of it with our family and our kids, and it's been quite a wake-up call for me to actually become aware of the things that I'm saying to myself. If that's what I say to myself when I wake up in the morning, what else am I saying to myself during the day that I'm not even paying attention to? But surely it's having an effect on the things that I do and the things that I say and the way that I relate with people. So, yeah. Look back on your week. Remind yourself of your goal. And then just take a minute to reflect on this past week and say, what did I say to myself? What kind of environment did I put myself in that was conducive to my goals? And really, if it takes it, for myself, I've always kind of not really liked the idea of having to put myself in a structure. Like, I need a program to help me, stick to my goals. I never liked that idea. I kind of felt like, well, if I have a good heart, then I'll do good things. I don't need guidance, or I don't need a structure, I don't need a plan. I'll just do it. But I'm realizing more and more that it's not bad to have a plan. It's not bad to have a structure. It's not bad to say, okay, I'm not looking at these websites anymore. Okay, I'm deleting this app. Okay, I'm going to tell my husband, I'm going to tell him something good every day for the next 365 days. And I'm going to let him know it ahead of time so that I have to be accountable to it. It's not just in my head. I'm going to be nicer to my husband. No, I'm going to tell him that I'm going to do it so that I do it. There's really a power in using words to declare what you're going to do and helping you follow through with it. And kind of like the other week I was talking about inside out and outside in. It's the same with our mind. Of course, everything stems, like that quote said, our thoughts become our words, and our words become our actions, and our actions become our character, and our character becomes our destiny. But at the same time, just as everything stems from there, we can influence our core. We can influence our thoughts and our mind with the people and the things and the environment that we place ourselves in. And I think sometimes that's the easiest first step. So I really encourage you to take a new step this week. Find something new that feeds you, that feeds your heart and your spirit and your mind, and see where that takes you this year. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful week.